Hello, thank you all for attending the performance appraisal training for supervisors. I know you are all very busy and I appreciate you taking time out of your day to learn more about this important process. During this training, we will start by covering the overall timeline, what your role will be in this process, and your specific timeline. Then we will cover general guidance on how to conduct and complete an effective performance appraisal, and finally, open the call up for any questions. 2018 will mark the first year that performance appraisals will be completed on the same schedule Mammoth-wide. We plan to continue to enhance this process year over year and follow a similar schedule in years to come. Your appraisals should be completed and approved by your President/VP of Ops by September 16th. Your boss may give you a separate, earlier deadline by which to get with them regarding your performance appraisals. HR will review and consolidate the reviews. Supervisors can begin giving performance feedback to employees on October 5th. Used properly, the performance appraisal is a tool to enrich individuals and team performance by developing the skills, knowledge, and abilities of employees. Supervisors should be in constant communication with their subordinates regarding their job performance. Performance appraisals should not be generic. Objectives of this training. We want our employees to feel that the appraisal process is fair. To aid in that, the supervisor training examines the best practices for conducting effective performance evaluations. Topics include general guidelines for appraisals, emphasizing consistency, making the appraisal meaningful, communicating the results, and performance planning and appraisal forms. The performance appraisal should be constructive. Do not give a poor performer good or excellent appraisal. These can be brought up in court later. In general, look for reasons to praise employees and be encouraging. You'll get a lot more out of your employees, and studies show that you will reduce turnover in general. Always be sure to praise in public and discipline in private. Consistency. The appraisal should be based on uniform, job-related criteria. Regular documentation, performance conversations should be scheduled to review and document a conversation with employees about performance and goals on a regular basis. HR can help with consistency during the review process. Job descriptions may not be formal, but employees should have a good understanding of what they are supposed to do on the job and what your expectations are. HR will review all appraisals for consistency. Supervisor bias. Supervisors should be trained to give unbiased reviews. Reviews should be monitored for bias. Supervisors should not share information about one coworker with another. Note that employees can discuss their own appraisals along with any changes that might come about due to that. You cannot prohibit this. General guidelines for appraisals. Employee acknowledgement. The employee must have the right to review the appraisal and comment on it, and then sign an acknowledgement that the appraisal was given. If the employee refuses to sign the approval, simply write "employee refused to sign" in the blank of the employee's signature. If the reviewer is concerned that the appraisal meeting might be difficult, i.e. for poor performers, the review should be notified and discussed with HR ahead of time. HR is here to help. We can even help you role play an appraisal meeting if it makes you feel more comfortable with the situation. Emphasizing consistency. It is important to be consistent and respectful. Consistency lends credibility and fairness to the performance appraisal process. When employees view the process as fair, complaints of discrimination, retaliation, and harassment relating to the process are likely reduced. Consistency is achieved by using uniform criteria for evaluating performance. Uniform criteria should be applied to all employees in the same job category and to all employees in different job categories but who share the same goals, such as achieving the organization's missions or following safety requirements. If you have questions or concerns, contact HR. The same form is being used for all employees this year. Making the appraisal meaningful. To make appraisal meaningful, the supervisor should be honest and candid, not rate everyone the same, be willing to have tough conversations about needed improvements. Do not take the easy way out and give everyone a similar rating just to avoid conflict. Review performance for the entire appraisal period, the 12-month period from September through August, not just the most recent accomplishments or deficiencies, and focus on the individual, not a group of employees. Keeping a good calendar is helpful for remembering the full appraisal year. You may want to start one for the next year. Communicating the results. When a supervisor gets ready to conduct a performance appraisal, the supervisor should take several things into consideration. First, location. The chosen location should be a quiet and private place, with the meeting scheduled in advance and with enough time allocated for the discussion. If at all possible, do not allow interruptions and do not take phone calls unless it is an emergency situation. A conference room is a good location for a review if private. Put the appraisal meeting on the calendar. The timing shouldn't be a surprise to the employee. Allowing interruptions is not respectful of the employee's time and might affect their view of the performance appraisal. In the appraisal meeting, the supervisor should set the tone early. You should open the meeting with a positive statement, maintain good eye contact, and encourage employees to discuss and encourage the failures and successes of any issues. Maintain control. The supervisor should keep control of the meeting. Maintain self-esteem. Appraisal meetings can be difficult, so end by expressing confidence in the employee. Again, please remember to start the meeting on a positive note. Remember, the employee is more nervous than you are. Don't do all the talking, but do keep control. Examples of good and bad ways to give feedback. Make it a two-way conversation. What do you think? What's your take on that? What do you think you could have done better? How could you approach it differently? Be clear and specific. Don't just share the end result you need, but be prepared to share the process of how to get there. Having the discussion with the employee instead of issuing directives is very helpful. Be specific instead of telling the employee that they need to do something better. Example, drive a forklift or conduct a meeting. Tell the employee specifically which aspect of that task they need to do better, changing gears more smoothly to provide and meet specific objectives. Encourage employee-generated solutions. When possible, be open to alternative approaches to problem solving and try not to dictate your approach if others would work equally well. Be a coach, not a critic. Tie performance feedback to your employees' personal or professional goals. Your communication is less about criticizing and more about helping. Tie your feedback to the bigger picture. Connect individual performance feedback to the needs and values of the overall business and its stakeholders. Model behavior you'd like to see. Be open and seek constructive performance feedback for yourself. Collaborate with the employees on problem solving. Be sure that they understand that their role in the organization's success is important. Preparation is critical to achieving an effective appraisal. The supervisor should have documentation of specific examples of successes or areas for improvement, and state specific expectations for improvement, including both short-term and long-term plans. Take the time to do it right. Otherwise, you are wasting time, yours and your employees and your supervisors. Here's a question to help you with this goal. How does a supervisor make the performance appraisal fair? The answer is B. Use consistent standards and job descriptions. Employees should be treated fairly and respectfully. Fairness is of vital importance to the process. Consistency promotes fairness so that the supervisor should use consistent job descriptions and performance standards. Choice A is incorrect because a reliance on a subjective standards may result in inconsistency when appraising employee performance. Choices C and D relate to the scheduling of performance appraisals, which does not necessarily contribute to making the process fair or unfair. We will now be reviewing the performance plan and appraisal forms. This is a 3-page form. There are 8 categories for frontline employees and 11 for supervisors. A 5-point rating scale is used for these categories. There is also a section for strengths and development needs, as well as employee comments. Here you will see the performance planning and appraisal form. You will print the employee's name, date, department, and position. The purpose of the review will be marked as annual, as well as listing the date. On the next page, you will see the appraisal sections and the 8 different options for those review criteria, as well as the rating scale. Reviewed criteria is to be evaluated and rating scale. Stress that not everyone is competent in every criteria. Thought must be given to each criteria individually. HR will review and may return forms when the rating is the same for every category for reassessment. Every form must include strong points and areas of improvement. None is not acceptable. If an employee truly has no areas for improvement in his or her current position, then list areas that they should work on to meet their goals of being promoted or advanced. Now is the time for questions and answers with your HR supervisor. If there are any additional questions, please seek out your HR representative, and they will be able to assist you with any of those concerns, questions that you might have, so we can get them answered in an orderly fashion. Thank you very much for attending this recording, and please let your HR representative know that you have completed this training.